Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fab Chips. I know it's been a while, but as usual, so much has been happening and nothing really has been happening. And I just figured, hey, better to stick with tips and tricks than trying to follow up on the news. But there's new, well, I won't call it breaking news, but interesting news coming out of the court case between the CDC and the state of Florida. If you recall, the state of Florida filed a lawsuit against the CDC saying that there was an overreach in their powers. And a few weeks after the lawsuit, Florida filed an injunction. And what that injunction was meant to do is really to get cruising going until the lawsuit. So essentially, they'd go into the injunction, and the plan was that the judge will grant the cruise lines the ability to cruise until the lawsuit, and once the lawsuit is done, everyone can move ahead. Well, the injunction started, and then the judge moved it to mediation, and mediation was supposed to be done yesterday. But today, June 2nd, court filings showed that the CDC made two arguments to the judge to cancel the injunction. The first argument they made was one of the arguments Florida was making was that CDC had no authority, in that they had no backing by Congress to stop cruises from sailing. So the CDC has actually submitted new court papers asking the judge to throw out the injunction case. And they made two arguments in that paper, or in that submission. One of them was the fact that the CSO and the CDC's authority has been affirmed by Congress. Now, if you recall, one of the arguments that Florida was making was that CDC did not have the authority, was an overreach because they had no congressional approval, especially if the damage to the industry or to them, Florida, was beyond a certain dollar amount. So they needed congressional authority to actually put the CSO in order. That's the conditional sale order. Well, guess what? CDC is now arguing that, look, in the ATRA, yes, more acronyms. ATRA means Alaska Tourism Recovery Act, which was signed into law, I believe, May 26. In that law, there is actually provision there saying that any cruise ship that wants to cruise in Alaska needs to fulfill the order of the CSO and get a certificate of cruising or certificate of cruising from the CDC. So what the CDC is arguing is this: if you cancel the CSO and you remove the CDC's authority, it means all cruises in Alaska will ultimately come to a halt, because there is a law now backing the CSO and there is a law backing the CDC to act in the way they are doing. So if the injunction is actually successful, then it means that cruising in Alaska for this season will come to an end immediately. Now, recall, Alaska joined with Florida on this suit, so I'm wondering how Alaska is going to react to this. Anyways, let me read something that the city said that I thought was quite interesting regarding this. Defendant's supplemental brief will explain that ATRA ratifies the CSO. Congress presumed that the CSO was valid and expressly incorporated it into the standards applied in ATRA. Congress has thus ratified the CDC's authority to issue the CSO as well as the prior NSOs. These new issues merits additional briefing. So essentially what the CDC is saying, that the no sale order, conditional sale order, has been recognized by Congress. It's actually now in law. It's part of the law of the United States. So if you cancel the CSO, if you cancel the NSO, if you cancel the authority of the CDC, the Alaska cruising season is completely dead. The second point that the CDC is making is essentially saying that the injunction at this point is useless. In actual fact, Florida is working against the cruise industry. And let me just read what the CDC says. I think they put it better than I can ever say it. So here it is. It says, second, the proposed supplemental brief and declaration will address the impending resumption of cruising. The CDC has continued to update its guidance in accordance with public health judgments and to provide technical assistance to the industry. Moreover, as of June 1, 2021, the CDC has approved port agreements covering 22 vessels at 5 ports of call and is reviewing agreements for 6 additional vessels. Has approved and provisionally approved 4 requests to conduct simulated voyages with 6 more requests under review, and has received and provisionally approved 2 conditional sailing certificates for highly vaccinated cruises. In short, cruising is set to resume as planned, and Florida cannot establish an irreparable injury that would occur in the absence of an injunction. The speculative nature of the state's injury, quote unquote, is therefore further underlined by the fact that an injunction would A, end cruising in Alaska for the season because ATRA only benefits ships operating with conditional sailing certificate under the CSO, and B, cast considerable doubt on public confidence in the industry, particularly in the state of Florida, which is publicly battling with the industry over its own laws, and C, otherwise undermine the carefully laid plans for safe resumption of passenger operations. These updates therefore merit inclusion in the record. So essentially, 3 main points the CDC is making here. If the injunction goes through, Alaska season, cruising season as we know it, is over. 2, what Florida is doing is going to erode people's confidence in sailing. Essentially, a lot of people are not sure whether they should go on a cruise because they feel that if there are non-vaccinated people on the cruise ship and there is an infection, it's going to ruin their cruise experience in the event that the cruise ship may have to turn back or have to go back to port or something. Anyway, they fear an interruption. The third one is this. The CDC is saying, look, between them, that's the CDC and the cruise lines, they have worked out carefully laid plans for a safe resumption. Letting the injunction go through will undermine safe resumption of cruising in the United States. That's the CDC's argument here. So it seems like between the state of Florida, the cruise lines, and the CDC, even Alaska now, everything has not been intertwined into one monstrosity or some sort of pretzel that I don't know. As much as I want things to get back to normal, this is actually quite hilarious to me. And I don't know, I want to laugh. I don't want to cry, but I just find this interesting. The state of Florida is fighting for the cruise lines and the cruise industry, and at the same time, they're fighting against them. The wonders of law and politics. Anyways, I hope that has been somewhat illuminating and interesting for you. I hope you found it as interesting as I did. Anyway, if you found this interesting, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. But hey, politics and law and cruising. One day we will unwind this pretzel, and hopefully things will be back to normal again very soon. We're close to it. Case counts are coming down. The coronavirus case counts are coming down, and the deaths are tapering off. Hospitalizations are down. Thank God for that. So hopefully the U.S. will resume sailing soon. So I think right now all eyes are on celebrity cruises for the 26th. If you ask me, I don't think the injunction will go through. One, two, I'm curious to see what the mediation is. I'm hoping that the mediation will be such that the Florida governor will say, let's make an exemption for cruise lines in terms of asking for vaccinated and non-vaccinated cruisers. At the end of the day, cruise lines want families to sail. They want children to sail, especially since we are approaching summer. So it does them no good to exempt families with children who cannot be vaccinated. So I am sure a lot of cruise lines will do the test cruises. But one of the things they need to do is they need to get sailing as soon as possible so that they can start making some money and, just try and salvage this year as much as possible. So let's hope all this works out. Anyway, again, like I said, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And I'll see you next time for other stuff. Take care. Bye.